the eclipse is almost here, but unfortunately that means that some very active weather is almost here as well. Let's start with temperatures today. It's going to be on the warmer side, 78, 79 degrees. That'll be warmer than that normal high of 75. And then overnight tonight, low 50s, which is right on par. So warmer during the day, but right about normal overnight tonight. The other thing that unfortunately is normal for this time of year is the allergens. Now, if you're from out of town traveling in and you're catching a lot of sneezing and tickly throat and coughing, that kind of stuff, unfortunately, this is pretty normal for this area, this high pollen count in the spring. So a little bit of the less unfortunate side, or the less fortunate side, rather, of a welcome to Texas. Now, the other thing that's normal in the spring is storms, so we do need to talk about that, and there's a few things we need to go over, so let's get straight to it. First thing you're noticing is, this southwest flow, and you'll probably notice, man, this looks a lot like the setup we talked about last week. One low in the Midwest, or really in the heartland headed to the northwest here. Southwest flow ahead of the next system. This will make its way into the desert southwest and eventually make its way across the southern plains, but it's going to take its time doing so. So we have storms tomorrow afternoon and evening, Tuesday and Wednesday before Thursday we finally clear out, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But we see this moisture bringing these upper clouds in, and you'll see those out there today. And then tomorrow we have the Gulf moisture coming in. That will add to the lower clouds. So we will have upper and lower clouds present. The good news being that there will be breaks in both of those as well, or at least there should be. So we might get a bit of a view of that eclipse. We have a 4-minute window, so odds are during that time we should be able to get a little bit of a break there. So mostly cloudy, we'll be in the mid 70s as we hit totality there. And again, I do think we'll see some breaks in the clouds. What you see behind me is probably a fair representation of what it'll look like, but I do think we will see a few breaks here and there, and in a 4-minute span, if these clouds are moving along, I think it's possible that we could at least get a glimpse of totality across our area tomorrow. Now let's talk storms. Unfortunately, this is the latest map, came out just a few minutes before I filmed this. If you watched my update on the Eclipse Burrow page, this came out right after I filmed that, so that's what they tend to do. But this is the map that we have now, and you'll notice, compared to what we had before, you have this enhanced risk. Now, I mentioned in the Eclipse video, Eclipse Burrow that is, that I was thinking there'd be a risk maybe farther from Brownwood over towards our area down, maybe over towards Tyler and Palestine there. But that was not the case. They put it farther to the northwest. This is mostly for an increased hail threat for that area. There are also people talking about the tornado threat because there is a map that drapes a tornado threat over the area that I just mentioned. I want you to understand, it shows a 5% probability of tornadoes. That's a 5% probability that there will be or at least that there could be a tornado. I need to be careful with my wording there. 5% probability that there could be a tornado within a 25-mile radius of any point. 5% still is not great, but it is worth watching. So we will keep an eye on that. And this enhanced risk just barely touches Johnson and Ellis counties here. Mostly it's from Dallas, Fort Worth onward. Really, this is one of those situations where they tend to throw a risk out there and they just kind of stretch it over to just include the Metroplex. Again, I think that's a messaging play, just like the last time. Of course, we ended up having a quick tornado warning last Monday night. Hopefully we don't have that this time around, but we will discuss that possibility here in a moment. But again, I wouldn't get too distracted by this, certainly not in our area. I think that's mostly going to be for Vernon, Wichita Falls, over to Mineral Wells, that area. I think, Breckenridge, I think that's mostly the area that they're concerned about here, and then they just pulled it right into the Metroplex just to catch our area and just to kind of catch the messaging a little better. So just look at it that way. I think that's the best way to take it. Now, Tuesday, there's another broad slight risk. Could have another enhanced risk in here, but really it looks like the National Weather Service, or at least the Storm Prediction Center, is pushing the higher tornado threat to the east. So it looks like we may see more focus on southeast Texas over into Louisiana for that risk, and could be, since we're kind of in the western half of this whole thing, could be talking a little bit earlier in the day. But still a little early to talk specifics about Tuesday's storms. Just understand, could be some strong to severe thunderstorms in the what looks like waves of storms going on then. And then, as I mentioned, Wednesday, more rain, but it looks like Wednesday stays fairly docile. So let's talk about tomorrow. Let's talk about what to expect tomorrow. Hail, high winds, that's going to be our primary risk. And yes, we do have a low tornado risk. Yes, that's higher than the very low that I have here. But again, I'm not expecting widespread tornadoes. We will be watching for the possibility of one or two of those storms to rotate. If we get more, I would say, widespread storms and closely compacted storms, rather than some that are kind of off by themselves, those supercell thunderstorms, that would help our tornado risk go a little bit farther down. So part of it depends on how things organize tomorrow. I will be at Rail Yard Park, yes, starting at, well, really getting there early in the morning, but starting at noon. We have our Eclipse watch party down there, but I will be back in the studio in time to cover any storms that we have. So don't worry, even if there's limited cell service and you're not able to hear from me a whole lot during the day, I will be back in the studio in the time to cover this. And I do not have us under an enhanced risk. It's just barely covering Ellis and Johnson counties, and I really do think that most of that is from Fort Worth onto the northwest. So I'm not really considering us in an enhanced risk, but again, between now and then that could change. So let's time this out a little bit, and I have the same map from the Hillsborough. Please, Cleburne, Waxahachie, and Corsicana, don't get offended. This is the map from this morning, or I was pointing out where Hillsborough was, just for the sake of zooming in on that area for those visitors that are coming in, so that way they knew exactly what we're looking at. But that star is Hillsborough. If you want to put in the center of our area, probably goes closer to Itasca or Milford there, but regardless, hey, even if you're watching this area, that's Hillsborough, Waxahachie, Corsicana, and Cleburne. So this is the area we're looking at, Dallas and Waco, of course, as well. So 5 o'clock, after our little geography lesson there, 5 o'clock, this is saying that storms should be mostly south of our area. As I've mentioned many times, this is not an exact location of where those storms are going to be. This is an approximation of where we could see those storms around that time. Getting into 7 o'clock, yeah, they're definitely much closer to our area. We're probably looking at more widespread storms by that time. 9 o'clock, they continue. And then as we get to 11 o'clock, we should at least see most of it moving off to the northeast. Could still have a storm or two in our area. So this is going to last a while tomorrow. I think most of the severe weather is going to be early on in this event. So between 5 and 7 a.m. is when I think we really see probably the height of it. And then from 7 to 9, I think, well, I guess we could say 5 to 9 really is probably our best window. Hard to say it ends at 7, depending on how things are moving. 5 to 9, I think, is a more fair way to say that. After 9 o'clock, I think most of the severe stuff is east of us, and we might just have some lingering storms. And then by 11, most of it is out of here. I want to go over a few key points here. Clouds are expected during the eclipse, but we could get some breaks. Storms start in the late afternoon, evening hours, and could include severe weather. Something I want to mention with that too. It will be after the eclipse that the storms come in, but the focus, my focus at least, will be on the folks that are getting back to their homes and hotels, possibly to the airport, and those folks who are breaking down and packing up those events. That will be really the focus by that time. If we have a lot of traffic issues, hopefully there's not a lot of folks caught in traffic when these storms come in, but that's why we're going to have to watch these very closely. Storms continue Tuesday with more severe weather possible. We'll know more about that tomorrow. More rain possible Wednesday, but it looks like that will be just rain. We're kind of getting on the backside of that storm system, cooler winds, northerly winds, so that should keep things more calm. And what I haven't mentioned yet is that we could get an average of 2 to 3 inches of rain by the time this whole thing is done, by the time we get to Thursday. So when I say average, what I want to point out is that some could get an inch, some could get 4 inches. 2 to 3, I think, is a good average for what to expect, but you could get more. So let's put all of this together in the forecast here. Again, today's a pretty pleasant day, upper 70s and southwest winds of 10 miles per hour there. Tomorrow, a little bit breezy out of the south. That'll be bringing in all that moisture, and storms do start in the afternoon. Eclipse, right around totality. Looking at clouds, could be some breaks in those clouds, but clouds nonetheless, 80 degrees. Overnight tomorrow night, 65 degrees. Tuesday, more storms, and you see these little, these little caution, these little alert logos there, or whatever you want to call them. Those are the 2 days we're looking at for severe weather. Tuesday, we'll know more about specifics, what kind of severe weather we're probably looking at when it comes to the later hours of tomorrow. Wednesday, looking at just rain, but there could be more widespread or at least scattered rain on Wednesday. Northerly winds there turn gusty. Cooler though, we're dropping into the right around 70 to possibly upper 60s period here. And then we're nice. We get into the 70s for the latter half of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Looks like Thursday could be breezy, and then Friday and Saturday we start warming up again, but it's still nice, still pleasant out there. So stay tuned to South Metro weather. We have a lot going on. You're going to want to make sure that you are tuned in. The best place to get notifications for videos and live coverage is here on YouTube. And then if you go over to X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it now, you can get push notifications straight to your phone for every post there too. So that can be an advantage as well. Facebook, the notifications don't always work. I have a lot of questions about that. How do I get notifications of everything you post? Really, X, Twitter, whatever it is, those work better for those moment-to-moment posts. And then, of course, YouTube for the video content. So stay tuned to South Metro Weather for more updates over the next few days. Eclipse will be cloudy. Storms start after that. More storms Tuesday, rain Wednesday, and then we finally get nice for the end of the week.